Untitled Chapter. Parashat Va'era. Kedarkenu b'Kodesh. I'd like to start with a beracha. We should be zocheh this month. Tremendous night. We're into the Chodesh Shvat. Shenishma b'surot tovot.
Amen.
That's what Shvat is. Rashi Tevot. Shvat. Shenishma b'surot tovot. So Be'emet, we should hear b'surot tovot this month. I appreciate the fact that all you guys came out tonight. Hashem should give us siyata d'shmaya in such crazy times to be zocheh, to see the Or HaGadol and the incredible plan that Borei Olam is planning for Klal Yisrael and for the world. Because I'll tell you this, He's planning something. He's cooking something. He's cooking something. And it's amazing to see what He's going to do. Et asher hit'alalti b'Mitzrayim. Remember, before He took us out of Egypt, He first made Egypt into a mockery. Remember that. And Egypt was a prototype for all the future Geulah. So when He's going to take us out of America and all of Galut, He first has to make the great superpowers a mockery. He's been doing a great job at that. Mamash, He's been doing a great job at that. Interesting. Let's see what the issue is. Bear with me 1 minute. Rabotai Mechila. Yeah, 4 bars. Doesn't make sense. Okay. Let's try that again. So we should see what the true plan of Borei Olam is, Bezat Hashem, which should be zochet to clarity very soon. So here we go, Rabotai. Kedarkenu b'Kodesh. I'd like to start with a beracha tonight. Baruch Ata Adonai Eloheinu Melech HaOlam Sha'akol Nihya B'Dvaro.
Amen.
Can you tell those guys to kish? Thank you. Thank you. Okay, Rabotai, Parashat Va'era. Here we go. You know, the 5 books of Torah, Hamishe Humshe Torah, each sefer has a very individual and special name that describes the essence of the sefer. The book of Bereshit, the book of Shemot, Vayikra, Bamidbar, Devarim. You know that these Sfarim also have what you would call nicknames to them as well. For instance, the Ramban, he calls the book of Bereshit the book or the Sefer HaYitzirah, the Sefer of creation, for instance. The book of Shemot, the Ramban refers to Shemot as the Sefer HaGeulah, for instance, right? We have Torah Kohanim. Each book has its name and then also has the other names that are given by Chazal, by the Rishonim. It's amazing. If you take a look at the Bahag, and this is brought in the works of the Nitziv. The Nitziv brings in the name of the Bahag that when it came to the book of Shemot, you know what the Bahag called the book of Shemot? He didn't call it Shemot. He called it Sefer Sheni. The second book. Right? So, the book of Bereshit, he called Bereshit. Sefer HaYitzirah, the book of Bereshit, the book of creation. But when it came to Shemot, he called it Book 2, Sefer Sheni. And then he called Vayikra, Vayikra, and Bamidbar, Bamidbar, right? And then the book of Devarim, he called it Devarim, or he called it the book of Moshe, whichever way you want to call it. It's amazing. You see, it's not like he was consistent in this. It's not like he called Bereshit book 1, and then called Shemot book 2, and then, and so, etc., etc. No. All the other Sfarim, he called by a name. Bereshit, and then the book with Shemot was book 2, Vayikra, Bamidbar, Dvarim. And if that's the case, the inconsistency tells you that there's something about the book of Shemot that brought the Bahag to take it out of a name and instead call it book 2. Something very specific, individual, about the essence of the book of Shemot. That the Bahag instead doesn't call it by a name, but calls it Sefer Sheni. And the truth of the matter is, if you take a good look, you'll see, the Gemara in Sotah, Gemara over there in Lamed Vav, when the Gemara talks about the different Svarim of Torah, it actually refers to Sefer Shemot as Sefer Sheni. So this isn't something the Bahag came up with. This is something that already was muskam in the works of Gemara. Why would you call the book of Shemot Sheni when all the other Svarim Chumshei Torah by a name? I want to touch on this tonight because I think that here lies an incredible secret, the mafteach, to understand something that went on in these makot that maybe we've never touched upon before. Now, in truth, I do want to say that something very similar to tonight's share, which is based on the works of the Maharal, we've spoken about a few years back in the past, when we spoke about the 10 Makot. I think this week is the perfect week to speak about it, because we know from the 10 Makot, 7 are in this week's parasha, and then the last 3 is in next week's parasha. So the majority of the Makot are this week, highlighted this week. So if you had a share on the Makot, this is the majority Makot week you want to talk about it. So let's talk about this incredible phenomenon of the 10 Makot. Now we gave a share like this a few years back, but tonight we're going to take it to totally different levels. And we're going to add many Mar Mekomot from a beautiful talk that I heard not too long ago from Yedid Nafshi, Rabbi Daniel Gladstein, Hashem should bless him. He added a few magnificent Mar Mekomot, Kidarko Bakodesh, Hashem should bless him, really. He has such a gift, especially when it comes to finding Mar Mekomot. His research is, in my book, legendary. He's something special. I love him. He's unbelievable. We brought him here to the shul in the summer once, and what a Shabbat that was. We enjoyed every moment with him, really. I wish I can get him back again, Bezat Hashem. We're hoping to try to bring him here to Brooklyn again. He's a rabbi in Cedarhurst, so we're trying to bring him here for another week. And if that happens, I'll let you guys know. That's really it was a very special treat that we had. So tonight's shir is also based on many of the Mar Mekomot that Rabbi Gladstein brought as well on this topic, based on a Maharal that we spoke about some time ago on our own shiurim. I'm hoping that Hashem gives us siyata d'shmaya to really be able to do this right. So here we go. It's amazing. You take a look and you see that when Hashem brings the Makot to Mitzrayim and the way they kind of are rolled out, this week's parasha, next week's parasha, there's no real pause, nor is there any other topic spoken about other than the Makot itself. Dam, but then comes Sfardea, then comes Kinim, Arov, Dever, Shchin, Bang, 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 bang. Literally, the Torah rolls it out the way the Egyptians were hit, one after the next, until the very last Makkah. Right before we get to the last Makkah, we finish Makkah number 9, Choshech, and we're about to go to Makkah Bechorot number 10, and the Torah stops. Torah takes a break. We pause for station identification, and we go off to what would seem like Kivyachol Lahavdil. I don't even talk this way when it comes to, but it looks like we broke for a commercial break, and we go to something completely different. HaChodesh Hazeh Lachem Rosh Chodashim. From where to where? Where does this come in? Rashi asks this question. Everyone asks this question. Between Dam, Svardeya, Kinim, Arov, Dever, Shchin, no breaks. The Torah went beeline. This week, 7 makot. Wow, one after the next. Next week, 3 makot. All of a sudden, we come to the pinnacle. We come to the grand finale. This is it. We're down to number 10. Torah stops, pauses, and somehow or other redirects to a totally different topic, breaking up Makkah number 9 and Makkah number 10. And what is that? HaChodesh Hazeh Lachem. This amazing mitzvah that was given to us. It's going to be mitzvah that suddenly we start to count time differently. It's a very interesting mitzvah. The introduction to Makkah Bechorot, the mitzvah, HaChodesh Hazeh Lachem. Very interesting concept. Where now, through this mitzvah, let's get this clear, Hashem is going to recreate time. Up until this point, time was measured starting with the month of Tishrei. From this moment and on, time is going to be measured differently. Hashem kind of recreates the concept of time, and from this point and on, we are going to start time with the month of Nisan, not Tishrei. This is going to be the Rosh Chodashim, the beginning of the counting of the Jewish year, starting from Nisan. That's very interesting. Why would Hashem decide to introduce the Makkah Bechorot, but before He gives you Makkah Bechorot, I need to first recreate time? What does the recreation of time have to do with the last Makkah Bechorot? You see, because if Hashem uses that as the commercial break between Makkah number 9 and Makkah number 10, its placement is meaningful. So that means that there has to be something to do with the recreation of time as chosen by God to be the introduction to the last Makkah Bechorot. What would that have to do with Makkah number 10? This is a big idea I want to hit on tonight. So let's take it from the top, gentlemen. Let's see, Borei Olam should give us Yata Dishmaya and the right words. It's amazing. We already know this from the Mishnah, but this is something that's spoken about by the Psikta. This is something that's spoken at length by the Maharal Miprag. And if you want to see a beautiful rendition of this piece of Torah, you'll go out and get yourself the Sefer of the Rosh Yeshiva of Hebron, Rav David Cohen. The name of the Sefer is Mizmor LeDavid, which are the Ma'amarim that he used to give actually over the phone. He used to call in from Israel to Lakewood and give the Ma'amarim over the phone, and they recorded it. And then later on made a Sefer out of it, Mizmor LeDavid. And over there, Rav David Cohen gives over many of these ideas, but be'etzem, this is really mivusas on the great Hidush of the Maharal Miprag. The Maharal was known, and this is something we spoke about for many years, that there's a very deep connection between the 10 Makot of Egypt and the Asara Ma'amarot Shenivra Ha'olam. When Hashem created this world, He created the world with 10 utterings, with 10 speakings. It's amazing. Let's remember, we've spoken about this in the past. Bereshit bara Elokim et. The first thing, Hashem created et, the letters of the alphabet, Aleph through Taf. And then He combined those letters, and while uttering the combination of these letters, as He spoke, the world was created. As He spoke, the world was created. 10 speakings. Asara ma'amarot. There were 10 utterances, 10 speakings that God created the world with. Right? Abracadabra. Abracadabra. He created while He spoke. Correct? That's where it comes from, by the way. Abracadabra. Even that comes from us. It's unbelievable. They have nothing, these guys. Even abracadabra comes from Klal Yisrael. Abracadabra. He created while He spoke. 10 speakings, these 10 utterances, 10 ma'amarot, created the world. Says the Maharal, you see, it must be true. Yeah, it must be true. That's what they say. Says the Maharal, that was the purpose for the 10 makot of Egypt. The 10 plagues. It's not just a coincidence. 10 plagues and 10 utterances that the world was created. No. It's not just a coincidence of 10 and 10. But the reason why Hashem brought 10 plagues to Paro in Egypt was because the 10 plagues were supposed to correspond to the 10 ma'amarot that God created the world with. You see, Paro was a vicious kofer. Paro was this major apikairis, this major heretic. Paro used to say, the only gods that actually run the world is the Nile and myself. Right? He was in denial. You know, get it? He was in denial of anything else. Guys, these are the jokes tonight. This was denial of anything else but him and the Nile River. And that's it. That was it. And therefore, when Moshe Rabbeinu first comes to Paro and he says, Paro, I'm here to tell you the word of Hashem. He said, who is this Hashem? I never heard of this Hashem. He even made a joke. The Midrash says he started to look through the yellow pages of gods, all the different names of the different gods that he had in his books, and he says, your God is unlisted. And if he's not here in my book, he doesn't exist. And this was just a big joke, where all his ministers and all his advisors were laughing. But Moshe and Aaron were not laughing. And neither was some of his advisors. Like Yitro was not laughing. Right? Who else was there? Bilam. He probably was laughing, although he knew good and well who Hashem was. But Bilam was a Rasha, through and through. You know what I'm saying? Who else was there? Eov. Eov was not laughing. He knew exactly who Hashem was. But nonetheless, Paro was the biggest apikairis. He was the biggest apikores. There is no such thing as Hashem. God forbid to say something like that. Only the Nile River and myself is the only gods. So Hashem says, really, Paro? That's what you told to Moshe and Aharon? I could wipe you out, says Borei Olam, in a second. I could wipe you out, Paro, with one plague. I don't need 10 plagues. So why did he bring 10 plagues? We've heard that question over the years, right? The answer is that the 10 plagues weren't there to punish Egypt. The 10 plagues were there to confirm the 10 utterances that God was the one who only He created the world. Hashem says, I want to show you how you're going to eat those words. And I'm going to show you, Paro, that through the 10 plagues, I'm going to demonstrate dominance, mastery, on all 10 areas of speech that God used to create the world in 6 days of creation. And each makkah, each plague, will be a confirmation on another one of the 10 utterances that God spoke and created the world with. Wow, this is heavy stuff. This is heavy stuff. And if that's the case, I think it'll be proper just to take a moment to try to figure out what exactly were those 10 speakings of creation, so that we'll try to figure out how they interrelate and correlate with the 10 plagues in Egypt. Yes, that makes sense, right? So let's take a look at this for a minute. What were the 10 speakings, the 10 ma'amarot that God created the world with? If you take a look, the first one was Vayomer Elokim Yehi Or. The second one was Vayomer Elokim Yehi Rakia. The third one was Yikavu Amayim. The next one was Tadshe Ha'aretz Deshe. The next one was Vayomer Elokim Yehi Me'orot, right? The luminaries, correct? After that, God said Vayomer Elokim, God said Yishrutzu Hamayim. And then after that, Vayomer Elokim Toseh Ha'aretz Nefesh Chaya. We needed animals. And then after that, finally, we got to Vayomer Elokim Naaseh Adam. Those were what we would call all the Vayomers in creation. That's why they're called Ma'amarot, Milashon, utterance, Milashon, speaking, Milashon, Vayomer, Ma'amarot. But wait one second, when you count all the Vayomers in creation, you'll see that Be'etzem, we only have 8. Vayomer Yehi Or, Vayomer Rakia, Vayomer Yikavu Amayim, Vayomer Tadshe Ha'aretz Deshe, Vayomer Yehi Me'orot, that's 4, Vayomer Yishutzu Hamayim, Vayomer Toseh Ha'aretz Nefesh Chaya, Vayomer Naaseh Adam, that's 8. You told me there's 10. We're missing 2. This is not my question. The Gemara asked this question. The Gemara says, you told me that there were 10 utterances that God created the world, but I'm counting in the Psukim only 8. Where's this Gemara found? This Gemara is in Rosh Hashanah Daf Lamed. The Gemara says over there, where is... Now it's interesting, when the Gemara asked this question, for some reason the Gemara had a count of 9. The Gemara felt we're missing 1, not 2. In a moment we'll see where the other one came from. But the Gemara says, where is the missing utterance? The missing speech of creation that makes 10. Says the Gemara, you know what you're missing? The very first one. Answers the Gemara, the first speech, utterance, first creation of time, the first creation in the creation of the world was the actual word Bereshit. Bereshit was the first utterance of creation. And if that's the case, Vayihi Or was only utterance number 2. Rakia was 3, Yikavu Amayim was 4, Tadshe Ha'aretz was 5, Yehi Me'orot was 6, Yishrutzu Hamayim is 7, Toseh Ha'aretz Nefesh Chaya is 8. Naaseh Adam would then be 9. Okay, so what's number 10? So says the Vilna Gaon, one of 2 possibilities. Either number 10 would be Hine Vayomer Hashem, Hine Natati Lachem Kol Esev Hasadeh, which is I gave you agricultural, what we would call growth food. That's one side, maybe that's number 10. The other side of number 10 is very interesting, and that was the woman. Prurvu was the 10th ma'amar of creation. Meaning that not only did I create you, but you've given the ability to recreate. Very interesting idea. Okay, but we'll leave that for now. But here are the 10 ma'amarot that Hashem created the world with. Says the Maharal that these 10 ma'amarot are interconnected, correlated to the 10 makot. Matter of fact, that was the whole job. He could have wiped them out with 1 makkah. He could have just brought makkah bechorot. It would have been over. End game. That's it. Why did they have to bring 10? Because this wasn't about punishment. Yeah, oh, no question. They got their punishment and if you take a look at the Midrash, you'll see how the punishments that the Egyptians got through the plagues were perfectly midah keneged midah for the way they made the Jews suffer. But it was bigger than that. It was much bigger than that. It wasn't just a quid pro quo punishment. It wasn't just midah keneged midah punishment. It was much bigger than that. It was to prove the 10 speakings that God created this world. So that once I'm done with you, Paro, you and the Egyptians are going to be the biggest believers that Hashem was the only one that created this world. You'll be able to make Shabbat already. You know what Shabbat is? Shabbat is the testimony that Hashem was the only one that created the world in 6 days, and on the 7th day there was nothing left to create. And therefore he stopped creating, because everything he did was perfect. Shabbat screams God's perfection in creation in 6 days. And on the 7th day, there was nothing left to do. That's why on Shabbat you're not allowed to do melacha. Because melacha inherently means to bring about a change. On Shabbat, there's no change. Because everything that was done perfectly. And if there was anything else to be done, it would have been done by God. And therefore, if he stopped, it means everything that was done to the perfect degree, and it is perfect. Unbelievable. So now let's try to get this going, guys, if we may. Let's see, how in the world can you connect 10 speakings of creation to 10 plagues in Egypt? And this is going to be a little bit on the fun side, because once you start seeing this roll, you'll realize that this is brilliant. This is mamash, the real deal. All right, so let's see it. So it goes like this, Rabotai. Says the Maharal. Each Makkah was going to come now to prove a different of the speakings of creation of God. Let's figure this out. He says, the way Hashem looks at this world is the way we look at Him. It's kind of like looking at a mirror, where my right hand in the mirror is really on the left side. Because it's a mirror image from me. And therefore, when Hashem looks down at this world and he wants to prove Paro that he was the one that did the first Ma'amar, it will correspond to the last Makkah, and vice versa. The second Ma'amar is going to correspond to the second to the last Makkah. The third Ma'amar is going to correspond to the third to the last Makkah, and so on and so forth. Number 1 proves number 10. Number 10 proves number 1. Now let's understand this. It's not as complicated as at first it sounds. It's kind of very simple in a certain way. I'll explain this to you. Let's just take the famous ones as a start. Okay? If I want to prove to you that God was the one who said the second Ma'amar, Vayihi Or, so I need to bring you the second to last Makkah, which is Makat Choshech, to show you God was the one who dominates, created light, and He could put out the light at any time He wants. He is the master, and He has dominion over the creation of light. So watch what I'm going to do. I'm going to make the land black out for 3 days, but such a choshech, that mamish, it's going to be the choshech of tohu vavohu. It's not just going to be a choshech of an absence of light. It's going to be a choshech of nothingness, where nothing could move in the absence of or. So, Paro, you doubt that Hashem was the one who created light in the second of speakings of creation, the second to the last is going to be Choshech. Take a look. I am the God of light. Hey Paro, you're denying that God did not say Bereshit? So the last Makkah is going to be Bereshit. Makat Bechorot, Reshit. The first one of the house is going to be killed. The way I prove to you that Hashem was the one that said Bereshit is by Makat Bechorot. Take a look. I have killed the Reshit in every one of your home. I have dominion over all Reshit. Even the highest Reshit, which is the firstborn of a home. Even that Reshit, Hashem demonstrates, I have dominion, I'm the master over all Reshit. And therefore, in order to prove to you Bereshit, the last Makkah is Makat Bechorot, the killing of the Reshit, the firstborn of every Egyptian home. And this goes through and through and through. The first Makkah is Dam. What do we say? What was the last of the Ma'amarot? Nase Adam. Or maybe the woman, Purvu. But that is what man is. Because the Dam, hi nefesh. That is exactly what the Ruach of Adam and Chava, or even if you want to learn number 10 is Purvu. So then the ability is to create a nefesh. V'hadam hi nefesh. So if last one was Purvu or Nase Adam, whichever way you learn it, but that's all the nefesh of man. And therefore, to prove to you that I'm the master over the nefesh, I'm the master over the marriage or the recreation of nefesh. What is going to be the first Makkah? Dam, because Dam, hi nefesh. If I want to prove to you, Yishritzu Amayim, that God was the one that said that He's going to create all the living things in the water. What's going to be the Makkah that's going to prove that? Tzvardeya! Because now Hashem shows mastery over the frogs and the taninim and the insect and everything that came out of the swamp. It wasn't just the frogs. If you read the Midrash, what Tzvardeya was, it was like the Loch Ness monster came to Egypt. It was like everything that lived in water came out at them. The Tzvardeya was just the aggressive that jumped into the ovens, that were Moser Nafsham al Yedei Kiddush Hashem. But Tzvardeya was all of aquatic life. Come! Now you see that I was the one that said, Yishritzu Hamayim. Take a look. Makat Tzvardeya. Come! I'll show you Yikavu Hamayim. That God was the one that said that all the waters should come together so that the land will be able to stand as earth and the waters will stay in its place as oceans. Come, I'll show you that I have not just power over the water, but I have power over the land. And that was Makat Kinim. Every little morsel of dirt I have dominion over. I can make it stand up and walk. I can make it even crawl as lice in your head. Amazing. Totzi haaretz nefesh chaya. Prove to me that God was the one who said that from the creation He will create animals. That's a no-brainer. That was Makat Arov. Hashem showed that every animal He had dominion over. He had mastery over the animals. So Makat Arov proves that God in creation said, Vayomer Elokim totzi haaretz nefesh chaya. He created the animals. I mean, this keeps going and going. You'll see from each and every one. How do you know God said, Vayomer Elokim yehi rakia? Makat barad. The sky is falling. I mean, you want to see what in heaven's going to look like without a firmament, without a rakia? Makat barad. That's what it looks like. The sky is falling. That's the unbelievable hail that was coming down from heaven as if there was nothing holding up the skies. So now you see, I'm the one that holds up the sky, says Hashem. I'm the one that said, Vayomer Elokim yehi rakia. Because if I didn't put the rakia, you would have the sky falling. Makat barad. Makat barad shows that I hold up the skies. I'm the one that said, says Hashem. Vayomer Elokim Yehi Rakia. It's unbelievable how this works. Every makkah gives a confirmation to another one of the speakings of creation. And it proved to Paro in his face that you are pikaris, you. You don't think that Hashem was the one who created the world? Come, I'm going to give you a confirmation on every step of creation. And I'm going to recreate the world a second time in front of your eyes, right here in Egypt. And that's going to be the 10 Makot. They're going to be the recreation of the world in front of Paro's eyes to demonstrate that Hashem was, the God who created the world in the first place. Every makkah confirming every speaking of creation. It's amazing. Galut Mitzrayim, Yitziat Mitzrayim, was creation take 2. It's unbelievable. Creation take 2. God recreated every step of creation a second time in Egypt, in front of Paro, just to show him, take a look. I'm the one who created the world. I'll do it all over again right here in your face, just for you to see that Hashem was the one who created the world in the first place. I'll do it again just for you to watch. Amazing. 10 speakings, 10 makot. This is incredible. Be'emet, you go through it each one at a time. And not just that, you know. Vayomer Elokim totzi haaretz deshe. Deshe. Hashem goes and he says, let the vegetation and the greenery and all the wheat and all the land agricultural produce come forward. No. Comes the arbe, the grasshoppers, and says, you want to see how Hashem could wipe this out in a second? You want to see how Hashem could wipe out how Hashem has dominion over every morsel of every last leaf of every kernel of wheat on the stalks in your fields? In a minute, He can take it away. One infestation of bringing His arbe, V'chisa et en haaretz, they're going to come like this swarm that is going to be so unbelievable, it's going to black out the sun. My gosh. It's going to come down on the fields of Egypt. It's going to wipe you out. You're not going to have a morsel of deshe. Nothing's going to be left. Come, I'll show you. I put it there, and I could take it away at any moment I wanted. Unbelievable. Makat Arbe is the confirmation of Vayomer Elokim Tosi Haaretz Deshe. Oh, this is incredible. 10 Makot confirming 10 Ma'amarot that Hashem created the world. He literally recreated it all. Right there in Egypt. Creation, take 2. It's fantastic. And if this is the case, Rabotai, you understand, you appreciate. Oh, Makat Bechorot. Makat Bechorot was, like the Gemara said, the Gemara says, you're missing one. I only have 9. Where's the 10th? Says the Gemara. Oh, Bereshit. Bereshit was the first utterance of creation. And therefore, proved perfect by the last of the Makot. Makat Bechorot. Reshit. The first of every household, the Bechor of every household. Makat Bechorot, Hashem says, come, I'm going to show you Bereshit, that I'm the one who said Bereshit. I have the mastery over the first of everything in this world, even the firstborn of every home. Makat Bechorot. This is unbelievable. This is incredible. You know, they once came to the Vilna Gaon, and they said to the Gaon, is it true that you said that in the word Bereshit, you can find all 630 mitzvot? In the word Bereshit. The Gaon said, yes, absolutely. So it happens to be that a Talmud came to the Vilna Gaon, and they were at that time by a Pidyon Ben. And he asked the Gaon, really? I mean, every mitzvah, 613, you can find in the word Bereshit? He said, yes. He says, okay, we're here by Pidyon Haben. Where do you find Pidyon Haben in the word Bereshit? He says, that's easy. Ben, Bet, Resh, Aleph, Shin, Yud, Taf, right? Let's read it together. Ben Rishon, Achar, Shloshim, Yom, Tipadeh. He said, come on, give me a hard one. That's an easy one. He said, Vil not Gaon. It's a Gaon. It's a Gaon. Ben Bereshit, right? Bet, Resh, Aleph, Shin, Yud, Taf. Ben Rishon, Achrei Shloshim Yom, Tipadeh. Unbelievable. How do you know Hashem said Bereshit? It says, Borei Olam Paro, come, I'm going to show you. I'm going to show you that I was the one that said Bereshit. Makat Bechorot. I'm going to take away the Reshit of every one of your home, so you know I'm the master on all Reshit, on all firstborn, first everything. I'm the master. I'm the one who said it. What an amazing Maharal! This is something. Wow, this is something off the charts. And if this is the case, our stay, Yetziat Mitzrayim, the Makot in Egypt, really was a recreation of the beginning of the world, take two, which is a fantastic idea. I want to show you just a quick remez that I thought was fantastic. Rabbi Gladstein brings this from Rabbi David Cohen in the book, in his Sefer Mizmor LeDavid. And this is something that not only shows you how accurate this concept is, how brilliant it is, but it also shows you in the detail that when Hashem recreated the world a second time through the 10 Makot, as he did in round one with the 10 Ma'amarot, he did it with the exact same detail. Are you ready for this? Listen to this. This is wild. Listen to this. It's crazy. If you take a look, next week parasha, we're going to talk about the Makkah of the grasshoppers. Take a look at the Pasuk. The Pasuk says that Moshe Rabbeinu says to Paro, listen Paro, I'm going to bring you now Makkah. This is going to wipe you out from all your produce. It's going to wipe out your fields. Moshe Rabbeinu says, V'chisa et en haaretz. It's going to come down. It's going to block out the entire sun. The land is going to be literally go dark. V'lo yachol lirot et haaretz. It's going to be such a swarm of billions of grasshoppers. It's going to block out the sun. And you know what they're going to do? Ve'achal et kol ha'etz. It's going to eat and wipe out all the trees. Wow. The next pasuk tells us when the grasshoppers actually came down to Egypt, and now the Makkah was actually in progress, happening. Listen to what the pasuk says over there. Says the pasuk, "Vatechshach et en haaretz." Yes, the land went dark because there was so many billions of grasshoppers. They blocked out the sun. The land went dark. But listen to what the pasuk says. Ve'et kol ve'achlu ve'et kol pri ha'etz. Achlu et kol pri ha'etz. They went and they ate all the fruits of the trees. Wait 1 second. That's not what Moshe Rabbeinu told Paro. Moshe Rabbeinu, when he called out that the grasshoppers are going to come to the land of Egypt, you know what he said? They're going to come to Egypt, block out the light, and then they're going to eat all the trees. He says, the pasuk over there says, "Va'achal et kol ha'etz." They're going to eat all the trees. Comes the grasshoppers to town, and instead of listening to Moshe and eating the trees, they don't listen. You know what they did instead? They ate, says the pasuk, ve'achlu et kol pri ha'etz. They ate all the fruits of the trees, but not the trees themselves. Wait 1 second. Moshe called out that they were going to eat the trees. The grasshoppers didn't listen. Instead, you know what they ate? The fruits of the trees. Why is that? Why didn't they listen? The answer is a brilliant answer. The answer is go back to creation. Go back to the beginning of the creation. When Hashem created the trees, in the beginning of creation, Hashem told the trees that not only will the trees be edible. Not only will the fruits, rather, of the tree be edible, but etz peri oseh peri leminehu. Not only the fruit you'll be able to eat, you'll be able to eat the etz of the fruits as well. When Hashem originally called out for the trees to be created with fruit, Hashem called out, let's create. I'm going to create trees with fruit so that you may eat the trees and the fruit. When it came time for the actual creation to come out, says the Pasuk, Etz peri oseh peri lemineh. That when it came time, when the trees came forward, created, the trees, so to speak, hard to say this, didn't listen to God. But they weren't edible, only their fruit were edible. The famous Rashi there, the trees made a kal v'chomer, that if we're edible, then what? There's never going to be an ability to recreate fruit a second time. Okay, whatever it is. But listen to what happened. Listen to what happened. When it came time to create the trees and the fruit, Hashem says, you're going to eat the tree and the fruit. When the trees actually came up out of the ground in creation, only the fruit was edible, not the trees. So the trees didn't listen. So wait one second. I need to prove to you that Hashem was the one who created the trees and the fruit, right? Totzi haaretz deshe. And what am I going to prove that with? With the grasshoppers. So when it comes time for the grasshoppers to come to Egypt, which is proving the original saga of trees and fruit and creation, so just like in round one, the trees didn't listen, where the trees weren't eaten but only the fruit, so too in round two, when the grasshoppers came, they didn't listen to Moshe, and instead of being able to eat the trees, they only ate the fruit. This is crazy. Because the whole point of round two is to prove round one. So the way it happened in round one, I need to replay it exactly to the detail in round two. And therefore, if the grasshoppers is proving that God created the trees and the fruit, so just like in round one, the trees didn't listen and only the fruit were eaten, so too in round two, the grasshoppers aren't going to listen and the trees won't be eaten, but only the fruit. Wow, this is too much. This is unbelievable. This is incredible. So says Rabbi David Cohen. This is amazing. And if this is the case now, Rabotai, I think we can give an amazing ending to this derasha. And I want you to hear this. You know, we found an amazing idea. The word Bereshit. I want you to think about this. What does the word Bereshit mean? So we always, as kids, you know, Bereshit, in the beginning, right? In Anfang, right? Bara Elokim, right? Hashem created. The Eibishter hat b'schaffen, right? He created. Et hashamayim et haaretz. Bereshit. What does the word Bereshit mean? In the beginning. Right? That's the way we translate it. In the beginning. Bereshit. But if that's the case, we're going to have an issue here. Because, you know, Baruch She'amar, you know what we say? Baruch oseh Bereshit. That doesn't make sense if you're translating Bereshit in the beginning. Baruch, blessed is God, oseh, that He made Bereshit in the beginning. That doesn't make any sense. In Aleinu L'Shabeach we say, Lated Gidula Liotzer Bereshit. You know what we should have said? Baruch Oseh Reshit. Maybe that makes a little bit more sense. He made the beginning. Lated Gidula, let's give Gadlut, let's give great glory. Liotzer, to the Creator, Reshit, of beginning, not Bereshit, in the beginning. In the beginning doesn't work here. So what does this word Bereshit really mean? I mean, in the beginning doesn't work with the terminology the way we use it. Says the Bilgnan Gaon something incredible, and this is going to bring it all together now with a sledgehammer. I mean, this is too much, Bemet. It's too much. Again, if you came for a shmooze tonight, you came to the wrong place. I told you guys, Tuesday night is the shmooze, and Thursday night is the shir. I hope We clarified that. Tuesday night I stand, Thursday night I'm sitting, okay? Please. But listen to what I want to tell you on this. It's amazing. Says the Vilna Gaon, the word Bereshit was not just the first ma'amar of creation. Says the Gaon, Bereshit was the actual first creation. It was a creation in itself. When Hashem said Bereshit, it was the first ma'amar of creation that Hashem created something. What was the creation of Bereshit? Says the Gaon something fantastic. Says the Gaon, you can't create anything if you don't have what to put it into. Bereshit was the first creation. What was it the creation of? In the beginning. In order to call something Reshit, as opposed to Shenit and Shlishit, you need to have something called time. Says the Gaon, Bereshit was the first creation. It was when God created time. Time. Once you create time, now you can tell me the beginning of time. But if you don't have time, there's no beginning, there's no middle, there's no end. So what are you talking about? No. First, Bereshit. I need to create Reshit, time. And after I create time, now I can create what will be placed in time. Because without that, there's no way of creating anything else after that. Incredible. If this is the case, Rabotai, please bear with me on this. This is not normal. We said, how did Hashem prove to Paro that he was the one that said Bereshit? Reshit. He proved it through the last Makat Bechorot. I said Reshit. And I'm going to prove to you that I'm the master on the beginning or the first of everything by killing the firstborn of every Egyptian home. Makat Bechorot is what literally proves Bereshit. But when Bereshit is the first and it's the creation of time, so says Borei Olam, now that I'm about to bring you the last Makkah, which is going to prove Bereshit, which was the creation of time, I first need to recreate time. So I bring you HaChodesh Hazeh Lachem, Rosh Chodashim, which until now you were scaling, measuring time with Tishrei. But if I'm now to bring you Makat Bechorot, which was proving Bereshit, which was the creation of time, I want to first recreate time in order to traduce Makat Bechorot, which proves Bereshit, the creation of time. Till now you scale time with Tishrei. Now I'm going to scale time with Nisan. I'm going to recreate time as you know it. And we asked in the beginning of the shir, why now? I mean, come on. Why did you take a break between, Choshech and Makat Bechorot? I mean, this is, every other Makat, there was no breaks. All of a sudden, now you're going to break? The answer is yes. Because remember, 10 plagues in Egypt is the creation of the world, take 2. And says Hashem, if I'm about to create again the concept of Bereshit, that means I'm about to create again time. But this time, I want you to use and scale time differently, the way you've been doing it up until now. I don't want you to scale from Tishrei. I want you to start from Nisan. So I need to give you the mitzvah, HaChodesh Hazeh Lachem, Rosh Chodashim, so that when I come to Makat Bechorot and create time, it's going to be from Nisan and not from Tishrei. too much. This is crazy. Not normal. Unbelievable. Wow. And if this is the case, Rabotai, I think it's very clear now. Rashi wanted to know, how come the Torah starts with creation and the Torah doesn't start with the first mitzvah given to Klal Yisrael? Rashi asks the kasha, why doesn't the first book, the first pasuk start in Torah, HaChodesh Hazeh Lachem Rosh Chodashim? Well, in round one, in creation take one, Hashem wanted first to establish His dominion as Hashem Echad, so He started with creation. But in round two, when He recreated the world, take two in Egypt, He actually started first with the first mitzvah before Bereshit. He placed HaChodesh Hazeh Lachem Rosh Chodashim right before Makat Bechorot, which is the confirmation of the original Bereshit. So in round two of creation, Hashem actually did start the Torah with HaChodesh Hazeh Lachem, with the first mitzvah given to Klal Yisrael, the concept of the Chodesh, Kiddush HaChodesh, what we call the recreation of time. This is fantastic. Wow. And if this is the case, I think we hear now the Bahag. Says the Bahag, the book of Bereshit is called Bereshit. The book of Vayikra, Devarim, yes! But the book of Shemot, Sefer Sheni. You know why? Because if Bereshit is Sefer HaYitzirah, if Bereshit is the Sefer of creation, then the book of Shemot is creation take two. You know what you call creation take two? Sefer Sheni. Sefer Bereshit and Sefer Sheni of Bereshit. It's Bereshit take two. Unreal. Rabotai, I want to tell you something. In each and every one of our lives, we have a little paro in us. We do. We do. It's called the Yetzer Hara. Paro and the Yetzer Hara, the Baalei Musar always connect the two together. Baalei Musar want to teach us many powerful lessons of how you deal with your Yetzer Hara. And many of those lessons they take from Paro. And the way Paro dealt with the Jews is the style of the way Yetzer Hara deals with a Jew on a daily basis. Like they said, Paro was the Yetzer Hara's Rebbe. Or maybe vice versa, who knows who was the Rebbe and who was the Talmud. But they were very much interconnected. And as we spoke in the Shmooze this past Tuesday, about the concept of Paro was always about tichbad ha'avodah al ha'anashim. Just keep them busy, keep them busy, keep them busy, keep them busy. Don't let them think, don't let them breathe. Overwhelm them with social media, with everything that we spoke about Tuesday night. Like this, they won't have a second to actually be able to be creative and proactive, and they won't have a minute to learn, they won't have a minute to serve Hashem. They'll always be running out of shul because they think they're always in a rush to do something. They're living life on a treadmill. They're like the gerbil, and that thing. It's running, but you're not going anywhere. But I'm running. Well, you're not going anywhere. But you're running. That's exactly what the Yetzer Hara is doing. He got this from Paro. Or maybe Paro got this from him. Either way, doesn't matter. But the point here is, inside of us, there is a Paro. There's a little apikairis, and Hashem didn't even say such a thing. I don't mean it that way. But I'm saying inside of us there's always that little something, that little voice that comes out, how do you know? And Borei Olam, like he came to Paro in Egypt and recreated the entire creation and showed him, watch, I'm going to lay out creation take two and prove to you in every area my dominion and my mastery. Hashem does that to every single person in life at different intervals, at different points, in different ways. You thought that was totally in that guy? Hashem, Borei Olam says, come, I'll show you. I'm the master in that area. Oh, you thought that the doctor is going to come and give you the health? Come. I'm going to show you I'm the master of that area. I'm going to show you that all 10 ma'amarot came from me, and I'm going to roll it out in front of you. I'm going to roll it out in front of your lifetime, and you're going to see, I'm going to show you, I'm going to walk you through creation in your own life. And you're going to see that Hashem is the master in every single area, in every dominion. You thought Parnassah was this hookup. You thought Parnassah was this product. You thought Parnassah was that, what was that industry? Oh, I got to jump into this because that's hot. Oh, I got to jump into this. That's hot. Oh, that before that closes up quickly, I got to get into that business. They're making mad money in that business. That's hot. So says, where you running? Don't you realize? Like the Bet HaLevi used to laugh. He used to say, people think that the deal makes the profit. It's just the opposite. It's the profit that makes the deal. Hashem wants to give you money. So He brings you money. But He can't drop it from the sky because then it's going to mess up your power and freedom of choice. So He has to bring you a deal in order to camouflage what would look normal when He now gives you the profit. So it's not the deal that brought the profit. It's the profit that brought the deal. Amazing. You got it all backwards. And we're still running. No, this guy, that guy. Hashem says, listen, I'm going to prove to you in your lifetime that Paro inside of you, he's an Apikairos. And I'm going to show that Yetzer Hara inside of you that I, Hashem, dominion on all and every utterance of creation in your life. I'm going to show it to you in your Puravu. Did He teach us something? We waited years till finally had a child. Till finally we realized not the doctors. We went to every doctor on the planet. We went to every doctor here, Israel, back, America, you name it. And they all told us, like the last German doctor, impossible. I'll never forget that guy. Impossible. And that guy didn't even take insurance. He was so out of the box, just to show you how far we went. He was so out of the box doctor that he didn't take insurance. They didn't even recognize him because he was like so far. We walked in, the first Shalom Aleichem was $1,500. That was a consultation. And we thought, at least this doctor, this guy, he has this theory. We tried everybody else. With all his theories, what did he tell us in the office? Impossible. German doctor, impossible. David, impossible. I still hear his voice in my head. I still hear him in my head. I have him in the voice file in my head, in the audio file. And we walked outside. And that was the last straw. My wife broke down crying. And she looked at me and she says, Duv, it's over. We have no shot. This was our last hope. And I said to her, Naomi, who's in charge? And she says, Hashem. I said, that's right. Now at least we know that the doctors have nothing to do with our future kids. It's only Borei Olam. He's showing us that He was the one who uttered Pru Urvu in our life. No one else but Him. And Od Milvado. And He's not going to let anyone else, like Paro, He's not going to let anyone else share His thunder. Wild. Hashem says, okay, you're done? You're done going like a chicken without a head to all the doctors and paying money? You finished? Are you ready to be boteach in only me? Yeah, but we went to everybody. Hashem says, Ani Rishon v'ani Aharon. You start with me, inshallah, Be'ezat Hashem, it's going to happen. And then we run off to all these people. Hashem says, okay, they'll come back. They'll be back. And then they come back. And there's Hashem, I went to every doctor, and then some. And they're all telling me it's impossible. Impossible. David, And I hear the guy's voice in my head. German doctor. I don't want to say his name online, but many people know what I'm talking about. Impossible. At that moment, that we finally gave up on all the doctors and said, Hashem, no one else but you. You're the complete master and dominion in this area, like in every other area in life, that we finally come around to figure out the truth. 30 days later, my wife calls me to yeshiva, come home now. I'm thinking, oh. I said, what, everything okay? She says, just come home. I came running home. She's standing there with her hands shaking. I'm trying to see, what is she holding? I never thought I'd be zeicha to see 2 lines. I looked at that contraption for years, begging the Eibishter Borei Olam, let me see a second line. I never thought I'd see it. I come home, and there's 2 lines. I thought maybe we bought the one brand that 2 lines means negative. Because all these brands have these crazy, one's an X and one's a this and one's a that. I thought maybe we got it backwards. I ran to the box, I looked at the thing, and then I'm looking at okay, this is negative, this is positive, this is negative, this is positive. Oh my God, it's positive. And you know the rest of the story. After we called up the German doctor and told him, we said, it's positive. Impossible. Impossible, David. Go back, he tells me, look at the box. And you'll see it says over there, it's only 93% accurate. He tells me, you're the 7%. He tells me, Russia. I said, no, this is God, my friend. So go tell a German doctor this is God. I told you in the office. He told us when we were sitting there. He told us, impossible. You have no hope. He started to tell us terrible other thing, adopting or whatever. And I said to him, no, we still have hope. We still have God. And he couldn't take it. He refused to let us even hope for something. And that's why when we went outside, my wife broke down crying. I said, no. Don't forget who's in charge. I asked her, who's in charge? Hashem's in charge. The moment we said, Hashem's in charge, we were waiting for almost 4 years. The moment she said, Hashem's in charge, you're the one that said Puruvu, you're the one that recreates every ounce of creation in our lives. You show that little paro in us, that little apikairos. I'm going to show you, my love, that I am the master of every ounce of creation in your life. Your parnasa, your health, your children, your puruvu, your success, your wisdom, your everything. I'm going to show you that I'm the master of that too. Until you come back and scream, En od milvado, the way Paro did in the Yam Suf. Hashem Echad. Every one of us comes around to that moment of Hashem Echad. Unbelievable. We should be zocheh to be able to see the Hashem Echad Ushmo Echad. Thank you for listening, guys.